Hi, I'm Rebecca Emerton. I'm a scientist in the forecast department at the European Centre for Medium Range Weather Forecasts, or ECNWF. I'm going to talk today a little bit about tropical cyclones and some of the research science that I did when I was working at the University of Reading recently. So tropical cyclones are essentially really large storm systems, often up to 500 kilometres wide, and they bring with them really extreme winds and huge amounts of rainfall. And this rainfall, combined with the very large waves that tropical cyclones bring when they reach land, can cause devastating flooding alongside the damage from the extreme winds. You can get tropical cyclones in most of the tropical oceans at different times of the year. So in the southern hemisphere summer, that's usually between November and April, you can get tropical cyclones that impact Southeast Africa because that's when the oceans are warm in the Indian Ocean. And they tend to form out in the Indian Ocean and move west and south towards Southeast Africa, so countries like Madagascar, Mozambique, the Seychelles. So we call the atmosphere a chaotic system, and this comes down to something you may have heard of, which is called the butterfly effect. And this is the idea that a butterfly flapping its wings on one side of the world could impact the weather or a hurricane on the other side of the world. And to an extent, this is true. A very small change in the current conditions can affect what a forecast will say much further down the line. And to forecast the weather, we need observations of what's currently going on in the weather across the world. And we'll never have perfect observations of absolutely everywhere in the world. And that means a tiny error in our estimate of what's going on at the moment can have a big impact on our forecasts further down the line. And these tropical cyclones, they're really complicated, big storms. There's a lot going on in terms of the structure of the cyclones, the wind, the storms within them, the rain. There's so many different components that it's really difficult to know exactly how that's going to change further into the future. So when we forecast many different aspects of the weather, including tropical cyclones, we tend to use something called ensemble forecasts. And this is where we run the same forecast many times. And each of those times gives us a slightly different forecast scenario. And this helps us to understand what the most likely situation is going to be, but also the worst case scenario. So we have a range of possible outcomes and we know what the uncertainty is in the forecast that we can expect and then prepare for. So these ensemble forecasts are the kind of forecasts that we use to produce forecasts of cyclones Idai and Kenneth in Mozambique. And I'm going to hand over to Andrea to tell you a bit more about that work.
Hi, I'm Andrea Ficchi, postdoctoral researcher at the University of Reading. We use this forecast, so this ensemble forecast of tropical cyclones, both their paths and also the rainfall that they produce, to feed river or flood models that then are used to produce forecast of the future state of river flows. So then we use these predictions of river flows to understand when and where flood will occur or are likely to occur and how severe they will be. So then humanitarians can take decisions based on these forecasts. This is what we were asked to produce during Cyclone Idai and ahead of Cyclone Kenneth in Mozambique in 2019. So when Cyclone Idai struck in March 2019, Mozambique declared an emergency status and request for international help. These flood emergency bulletins, produced together with our partners at the European Centre for Medium Range Weather Forecast at the University of Bristol, were produced when the Mozambique government declared an international emergency, and the UK government requested us to use our expertise in flood forecasting to support the early response of humanitarians in Mozambique. And these bulletins were used together with weather forecasts from the National Meteorological Services in Mozambique to inform humanitarians and the national agencies about the future evolution of the situation after Cyclone Idai and Kenneth in March-April 2019. And this was the first time that according to the UK government, science was used so early in the process of informing the humanitarian operations in this kind of emergency. And so we were able to pinpoint to the locations that were the most likely to be affected by extreme flooding in Mozambique, and also to inform humanitarians about when and where people were going to be exposed and at risk. And so humanitarians were able to use this information to better plan their response and target those people that were most in need.